What's going on, y'all? My name is Christopher Life Willers, and this is the Stay Free live stream where every single time I get up here, I have conversations around certain topics that impact people, topics like prison, topics like mental health, topics like addiction, and more. At the end of the day, I know firsthand the reality of what happens when a person, well, I'm going to say, falls victim to the system or chooses to become a part of it, depending on an individual's journey. Today, I'm fortunate, I'm grateful, I'm excited to have the good brother Justice up here. I was able to meet Justice, well, hear about Justice first through a fellow advocate and friend of mine that I collaborate with in the nonprofit space. And then he came home, and it was in Richmond. I got to meet him and do, a piece of content and interview him and all that stuff, man. If you can, man, please go ahead and introduce yourself, good brother, before we get into this conversation today.
Okay. Peace, everybody. My name is Harry Traynham, but everybody call me Justice. I did, 29 and some change, but we ran it off to 30 years in prison.
Yeah.
I fell at the age of 19, hit the prison system by the age of 20. And to keep it simple, the bulk of my time was because I would not testify against my co-defendant.
30 years,
30 years.
19. I got locked up when I was 19. The last two guests I had this evening, because we're kicking back off these streams on this Friday, also got locked up at 19.
Hmm.
What I'm gonna ask you straight up, what should we say to some 19-year-olds right now? Because I keep hearing that number tonight. Is there a message you got for the young people right away?
Yeah, I think that we have to really folk tell them, like, when you start hitting adulthood, the penalties for your actions are different. There's
Yeah.
no longer you get these juvenile bids, or you get a little smack on the wrist, or you getting released to your parents' care. That it start when you hit that 18 mark, it start getting real.
Yeah.
So they gonna treat, if you act like a man, they gonna treat you like a man in that sense.
Yeah, that's powerful, right? At that point, and there's something to say about that window right there, 18 to 22. A lot of us end up getting incarcerated and with long numbers, man. So, thank you for that message, really quick. That's a jewel. But 30 years, we don't have to get into necessarily the ins and outs because I want to talk about not necessarily the case. I want to talk about how did you survive mentally 30 years of incarceration.
In a nutshell, I'm gonna have to say education. And what don't get talked about enough is the positive camaraderie that exists amongst us in those prisons. So I had a lot of individuals. Some of them was Christians, some of them was Nation of Islam, Sunni Muslim, but they all had one aspect in mind, and that was if they seen something in the youth, they educated. So to me, being able to learn to always and hold on to a sense of myself is what pushed me through. We have to understand that no matter what we go through, that your life has purpose, no matter where you find yourself at. And
Yeah.
once I understood that, that is what made, guided my decision making process. When I got to a point in my life, that's for me. Oh, that's not for me. Let me go this way because I need to do this. And understood that, that prison wasn't my sole condition. It was just a place that I was at that time, if that makes sense.
No, it absolutely does. So you're saying education kept you going.
Yes.
What is that? Oh, go ahead.
And what I mean by education, I'm not just talking about reading, writing, arithmetic. It's just waking up every day with a desire to learn something more. So I might see you over there and you are working out every day. I want to know why. And I
Right.
come over there and I start, okay, you know what? This teaches me how to handle this particular aspect of stress, or this teaches me how to do that. You know?
I want to ask you, and thank you for sharing that. Definitely, there's plenty of positive individuals. I will say though, when you said education, I thought about the tutors, man. A lot of the tutors that I knew in the system had life sentences, but they were better than every teacher. There were some good teachers, but they was better than every teacher that ever walked in those prisons. I feel like when you found that one guy that had this long, but he was a tutor. So shout out to the tutors, man,
No
especially the
doubt.
ones in my life to help push me towards some education. um, I want to ask you because I did time in VA. People often want to know about the prison culture. It's different. I post videos. What's up, Hawk, Spencer, everybody else on the live right now? Um, it's different geographically. We know that by watching videos and all that. Can you explain to people what the culture of prison was like in Virginia? Was it like Texas and Cali? Was it a unique experience? Because I've given my perspective, but I'd love to hear yours.
I'm gonna say I'm gonna say no. It's not like Cali and Texas, in my opinion. From never been there, but from what I see, and
Yeah.
I say prison is a microcosm of society. So
Mhm.
like California prisons represents what the streets look like in California. So you have a lot of gang culture that's
Exactly.
within prison. When I first got locked up, it was more so of where you from, in the
Yep.
sense of Northern Virginia, or if you was from up top, Richmond and things of that nature. And it wasn't violence happened, but it wasn't as violent just because, a lot of beefs didn't get carried over into the prison. So when
Yeah.
things happen in Virginia's system, it happened for a reason. It wasn't just because we wake up this day and we feel like doing that.
Yeah. Yeah. That's one thing that I said. Also, I think because people ask me about race, and I felt like everybody hung out with everybody. That
Mhm.
really didn't matter. Um, and what I wanted to ask you, and thank you for breaking that down when it came to like the overall culture.
Yeah.
But can you explain to somebody that's never been to prison? The way I'll phrase it is you have prison rules and then you have the rules from the prisoners. Uh,
Yeah.
we can deem that as the culture in the pod. Like,
Yeah.
can you break down how each pod or each prison has a culture and how that's established? Because I think people need to understand. I don't want to necessarily use the word hierarchy or politics or whatever, but just how things develop in prison.
Well, I can't really speak to how they develop, and more so of because each prison has its culture. And when you get there, most of us integrate within the culture. But like you said, there's a culture and then there's a subculture in each part. So a lot of it is predominantly about who is housed together.
Hmm.
And I think that's one of the things that DOC sometimes do a disservice of. They'll take all the older brothers or the educated brothers out of pods
Yeah.
and put a bunch of young dudes in there with no guidance. And then you have this part to get the culture of being the worst part. When all actuality, it was created that way because you took the sense of leadership out that part. The ones who will be able to say, hey, young buck, now we gonna handle this another way or do it another way.
Yeah.
But I think so. I think the culture get determined a lot by who's housed there, and the predominant mentality that is housed there and put there. Because like you go to some places, it's a beautiful sense of camaraderie, and then in some places you walk in and you can just feel the division. So a
Yeah.
lot of it is about I think about the type of mentality that's housed in each part, and that's how the culture get created.
I totally agree. I remember going to Greensville where there was three phones and it was just a different, it was always tense. Every like and I also remember being frustrated at times with some of the rules that were in place or some of the culture that was in place. And then I remember times where the COs would come in and disrupt. They would take away the ability for this culture to keep going and it would make things way worse.
Yeah,
Things would
and
even
you
more. Hmm?
yeah, and you notice that a lot when I first came into the system was you didn't have to be on no list. So you can have the Christians can have something, I can just go down there. The Nation of Islam can have something, I can just go there. Pan Africans have something, you can go there. So it was a lot more of okay, man. Tonight we going down there to build with the Moors because they talking with they have an economic class.
Hmm.
Then I
Yeah.
noticed they come out with policies to try to restrict that type of leadership that you got to be on one list and you
Yeah.
can't, and that. So I think that hurt a lot too when you start putting barriers up for people to go search for positive places to be.
Yeah. Controlled movement. Uh,
Yeah,
Sussex 2, level 4, totally separate. You're just with your pod, and the
yeah,
program list was extremely hard to get on. And then, yeah, I think the truth of the matter is they never want you to unify completely. A whole pod or comp, or excuse me, prison of 1,200 men that are unified all on one page couldn't be a great idea for
yeah,
other people. For us, it'd be amazing. But,
exactly.
um,
That's
mhm,
That's one of the things I was reading a quote by Dr. Naeem Akbar, and and I'm paraphrasing. He said he was referencing to if we turn prison to university, then they don't have to build no more prisons. They don't know what to do with themselves. So
Right.
that taught me right then they gotta create the atmosphere that this is a necessary environment.
What do you think? Because I remember I was doing a talk at one of the prisons, and I said the projects don't have to be dirty, which is similar. You know,
Mm.
um, we've seen enough. Like we're in 2025 now. We're getting ready to go in 2026 into some days. Laws are becoming more. The punishments are becoming more and more severe. We see more policing. We see super prisons being built here. Down here in Georgia, they got a $467 million give or take prison.
Wow.
Um, why do you think young men, old men, what are whoever are still making the decision to go into the streets, knowing that more than likely 9 times out of 10 gonna end up, in a box or a cell? What do you think is that part? Because you brought up Naeem Akbar, so I'm thinking about breaking the chains. I'm thinking about some books
Yes,
now, but
yes.
you know,
I'm a I'm gonna say a lack of knowledge of self. And what I mean by knowledge of self is that we do as a people, we don't have a strong identity. And I ain't even saying just black. I'm talking
right,
about youth. Our youth don't have a strong identity. So we end up gravitating towards things that perspectives that give us an emulation of what manhood should be instead of taking the route to learn what manhood is. So we don't see the value in the man who get up and go to work every day to make sure his child got food, clothing, and shelter. But
right.
we see value in the person who's sitting over there. He got the beans, but he living through illegal means, and we equate that with this is what a man's supposed to be. When all actuality, we lost the concept that a man is provider first and foremost. And sometimes providing is being present. Is not putting yourself in a situation to get, to be taken away from your child or your family or your mom. Because I'm pretty sure that you ask any, a child or somebody incarcerated, they rather have their parent there struggling with them than to be struggling without them.
Yeah, no
So I
question.
think in that sense, I think the biggest thing is the lack of identity. Because we try to, once again, quoting the book, Elijah Muhammad said, we try to be everything except ourselves. And I think that's one of the things in society that plagues us, that
No,
we don't have that sense of consciousness to be able to say things like, hey, Chris, man, I'm hurting. Or, hey, Chris, I don't understand this, because we feel like we always got to put that face on. And I think that hurt, especially as young men.
that's real, man. I think prison gave me an opportunity to get knowledge of self because my
Mm.
brother, who I'm still fighting for to get home, poetic, that's one of the things
Peace
he
to
said.
God. Yeah, that's my guy.
Yeah, that's my son's godson. He don't even, different, but I made him, hey, this your godson.
Yeah,
But not knowledge of self changed my life. I understood my value, and I was less likely to play myself in certain situations.
yeah.
Um, I want to say this for me. I want to take this shift really quick. For me, I came home after 17 years, because now I want to talk about transitioning back into society because I can tell from the conversation you were focused. You were progressive towards your freedom. Then freedom came. I don't know the entire process. Um, did you make parole? Was it a release date? Was it a pardon? What was the process? And then if you can share with us, like, what were the feelings? The what were you feeling just prior, and then that first month out?
I I was paroled. I got paroled because of fishback.
Mm,
Whoever don't know, fishback was when the jury wasn't properly instructed, so forth and so on. So that's how I ended up getting parole and eventually making parole or being granted parole. For me, the feelings was I'm not one of the people where things hit me right then and there, if that makes sense. I am one of the ones where the feelings come in increments. So when I was locked up, like I had some people like, why are you not happy? I'm
yeah,
happy. But it's just like with me is prison has, part of my institutionalization is okay, I gotta deal with what's next.
right.
I didn't really get a chance in my mind to sit down and focus on things. So things hit me in increments. Like the first part that hit me and it was a little overwhelming is when I walked out of Greensville and my mom just came out the car running, grabbed, hugged me, and started crying.
That'll
And
do it.
me recognizing the weight that was lifted off her shoulder, it made a, it gave me a moment.
Yeah.
I would say the second moment was me, my sister, my nephew. We was riding back from Hampton, and I got this, when you start seeing downtown or Richmond Skyline, and I just looked at my sister and say, "Yo, I am home. I am actually
Felt
free."
that. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So that's how mine's been hit even now, because I only been home like almost just close to 6 months,
Yeah.
but it still hit me in certain moments like, wow, I'm actually home, man. I didn't have this reality a couple years ago.
Yeah.
So that's how mine's been hitting me, not so much all at one time.
That's probably good. Me, everything hit.
Yeah,
I'm just always, I call it being passionate. I'm
yeah,
emotional, whatever it is, I feel it. Um, and never been in increments. And I think listening to you, that's probably helped you through the process of
yeah.
transitioning back into society. Were there any obstacles? Were there any, everybody's journey is different. Some people don't necessarily have any, but were there any things that you've had to navigate through or that you're working through now that you may want to share just so people can get
Yeah,
that perspective?
yeah, yes. Definitely a lot of obstacles. One thing about it, um, as we always say, we done heard him say, getting out of prison is just the beginning. It's not the end. The struggle do not end there. The transitioning from after a 30-year stretch of society, so the catching up on technology, even though I'm a fast learner, the thing that hurt me the most was also adjusting to people. I think people in society are a lot different than us that's locked up, because we made sure we govern ourselves by certain rules and demands and things like that. Out here, people don't have that umbrella, so you have to really be, how they say the wisest two people got to think for them. Sometimes you really have to think for people out here. Number two, I had to realize a lot of my inconsistencies. Prison had made me real reclusive, where when you got something on your mind, you don't go around saying, "Hey, I got something on my mind." I think my way through it. I go sit in the corner, or I just be quiet for a few days to figure my way. And I notice out here, to a lot of people, that's weird. you know
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I really had, so that part of adjusting to it, and the social aspect of that, you know it's okay to walk up to somebody, "Hey, how you doing today?" So forth and so in there. We taught to give people space, because you don't know if that person got something on their mind, bad news or whatever. So I
Yeah.
wasn't really approaching people the way that I should, to be like, "Hey, how you doing? My name's such and such. Can you help me with this?" I didn't know how to do that, and I still struggle with it, because you don't never know what type of mind frame people are into.
Yeah. Yeah. I'd say people are friendly down here in Georgia. That Southern hospitality thing is real, man. But I can definitely relate to social anxiety. It's funny because now, I say this in the most humble way, but I walk into a grocery store and people stop me now. And I can only imagine if this was like 4 or 5 years ago. There's no way. Now my wife, only thing she reminds you have to take pictures, be nice. And not that I don't want to be nice, but sometimes people, I'm just trying to get some tomatoes. You know what I'm saying? People, one time I was walking to the airport and the police was like, "Hey," I'm like, I start sweating a little bit because it's a policeman. You know what I'm saying? But he likes the content. But the social anxiety piece I can definitely relate to. The shift in people I can relate to. I didn't. I was like, yo, people in prison are way more chill. Why are
Yeah,
you guys so angry? I didn't understand. And then I was free long enough to understand why.
yeah,
Um, but somebody had asked a question or made a comment slash a question. They said they're a former CO, and they said there's definitely been a shift between 2000 people that were incarcerated in 2000 and people that were incarcerated in 2025. And we're
mhm,
talking about shifts in people, etc. Um, what year did you get incarcerated, and what year you came home in 2025?
yeah,
So you went down in 95,
yes.
right when parole got abolished.
February. I caught this beef, and I caught that beef in February.
Anybody ever did time in VA, it's well known that they took away parole in 1995.
January the 1st.
Right. And what he's saying is a month later, and that's serious because at that point they were just giving out numbers. They
Yeah,
was just, here you go, here goes and some of the people that were giving out the numbers still thought that there was parole active. So it was a very complex thing. That was triggering, man. Man. So did you? I guess what I want to ask you is, did you see a shift in people that were incarcerated in 2000 versus when you were getting ready to go home? And what do you think the direction of the prison's going? Because I feel like there's some good things I've seen. I've been to a prison where there's no fence around it in
Mm.
Maine. These guys are making 90,000. You know, I felt like a lot of those guys were moving in the right direction. I've been to a prison where it's the complete opposite, where I don't know what's going to happen next. But what are your thoughts?
I mean, like you said, there's always some positive things because the human nature gonna prevail regardless of the circumstances. So in the darkest situation, you're gonna find something that's positive about it, as long as humanity is involved, right?
Hmm.
But I think what that person is saying is that the shift in culture a lot of time comes from, once again, prison is nothing but a microcosm of society.
Yeah,
So when people come into prison, you can look at what's really going on out in society by looking at what's coming in. And I think that's where the shift come in, because it be different value systems. Like with a lot of us, we still had a level of respecting those that came before us.
yeah,
So we was more inclined to listen. Now then you went to the shift of now people don't care about what came after because you don't know nothing. So they didn't value the educations of the past.
yeah,
What I mean? So that's why I say a lot of it. So you will see, I think that's what that person is alluding to, because
yeah,
you was, yeah, in the difference of the culture, because our culture is always forever changing. And
yeah,
I use hip hop as a reference a lot, because you remember when hip hop first started, it was, oh, that ain't gonna last, it ain't gonna be this, it ain't gonna be that.
yeah,
Then it became a problem. Oh, you shouldn't be saying that and all this and that. So it's constantly, it reflects the age and the growth of our society as well. And you can see that a lot of time in prison.
it's real, man. Things shift, things come back again. It's
Yeah.
dynamics, man. Somebody asked the question, and I don't think they're being sarcastic. I think it's legitimate. They asked, "Is there anything that you miss about prison?" And it could be a crazy question. It could be not, depending on your perspective.
Yeah, let me say I don't miss being locked up, no
Right,
shape, form, or fashion.
right.
But I miss to be honest with you, I miss some of the brothers in there,
That'd
because
be my
we had in there when you both of y'all sometimes when you both going through a struggle, you find real camaraderie.
yeah,
So I do miss sometime having those brothers to lean on, because I knew their intentions was sincere. I knew when they gave me a pull up, it came from the heart, no malicious intent. So I do miss that out here, but I still find that within my family a lot.
yeah, yeah. I
So
had
if I,
a no. I was gonna say we had our 5 year vow renewal, and my
mm,
whole side was all brothers that I did time with.
yeah,
Beautiful thing, and at the baby shower, and
yeah,
they was down. I know what you're saying. That would have been my answer too. I
yeah,
don't miss nothing about the concrete steel, but I got brothers, man, that I hope we can get home. You know what I'm saying, and soon. So
yeah.
yeah, man. Um, what in terms of? I guess I want to ask this. In terms of, you've been home 6 months now. What Where are you at with? I mean, how do you feel in terms of progress? Do you feel like the preparation you did on the inside, transferred out here? Do you?
Um, yes, but not. And I say that in the sense, one thing, the biggest value thing the prison gave us, other than sitting us down and making us pay attention to learn, it taught us how to struggle.
Yeah,
So the one of the most valuable things that I have out here is I know how to do without. A lot of times that's the biggest obstacle that a person will have to get over, that everything is not going to come as fast as you want. So
no,
you won't have to sit down and know how to do without. So the
yeah,
same way you had to go from the first to the 30th without any commissary to that check,
right,
that is a skill out here.
yeah,
Being to be able to say, you know what, I can't order this right now, but I'm gonna go get these extra hours to do that. Those things are skills out here, you
yeah,
know. And the other thing I would say to translate it out here is getting up every morning, not just laying in the bed sleeping. A lot of time when we was young, we pressed that bump.
yep.
When I start
10 a.m., half the work day, half the business day gone. Yep,
over here, start telling me, said, man, business hours are from such and such, and I
yep.
start getting out the bed even when I want to, and that's a good habit to have out here.
Those two things alone are what allowed me and my wife to catapult into success on certain levels.
Yeah.
Those two things. Anybody that's watching this, um, we didn't spend. We went to Goodwill, and
Mm.
even to this day, this hoodie was probably, I don't know, $6. I got my man to put my stuff on it. Like, yo, if you can learn how to go without out here and stack and be disciplined in that way, you're better. I was another thing too about the employment. I just want to say I was a garbage man on the south side of Atlanta. It's very hard on the south side of Atlanta. 800 house count, but guess what? Saved that money, built the foundation, and didn't have to look back. While I watched a lot of people spend money on seafood boils and
Mm.
whatever else. Just being honest. Um, the other thing is, I get up at 3 a.m. with my son. He's got to be changed every 3 hours. I got the night shift, but um, I came home. I got up at 4:30 every morning, no matter what.
Mhm.
No matter what. So I'm glad you spoke to that, man. I used to be like that in prison because I didn't want to get up with everybody at the same time when they moved me into a dorm. I wanted to, take care of my affairs in the morning, get out the way, and carry that through. Um, what do you say to people that are getting ready to come home in 2025, getting ready to head into 2026? You've been out here, you observed some things, you've seen the culture, the people, still plenty more to observe, but so an encouraging word because there's people that are in the chat right now saying they're getting ready to come home, even though y'all ain't supposed to say you're getting ready to come home because that's what's going on. Lord Jesus, I'm taking your comment out. Don't do that no more. But anyways, what do you say to those brothers and sisters? Excuse me, because I don't want to assume.
I would say the biggest thing is come home a student. Don't come thinking you know everything with the attitude of, oh, I read a book, so I know this. I think long because once you come home as a student, you surround yourself with good people, they don't have no problem with preparing. My transition was easy because I came home to a good support system, and that I didn't go into it thinking I knew where. Oh, I know how to do it. As part, the only issue that I had in that aspect, I had to tell them to stop doing something so much to let me do it so I can learn how to do it,
Right.
which is actually a good thing. So I
Yeah,
think that's the biggest thing. You have to take what you know, but be able to set it aside so you can understand what you know better, if that makes any sense. I
for
think,
sure, man.
yeah.
Nah, that makes total sense. And shout out to the family members, the support that come from a genuine place and want to see, people coming home from situations like prison or out of certain situations succeed too. Um, what are some of the things because I seen you at a conference. So I
Mhm.
mean I seen it, but what are some things that you've done since you've been home in 6 months, and what are some things that are on the horizon, some things you're working on if you want to share? What should we be on the lookout for?
Well, since I've been home, I spoke at Virginia Tech, I spoke at VCU, and I've been going to every time they have a conference, especially in Richmond. I go so I can learn the atmosphere, knowing
Mm,
where I fit in. As you know, I work with the Humanization Project. So in
mm,
April, I will be speaking at VCU again,
nice,
and they're gonna actually do the plan is to do the ripple effects thing there.
nice.
Yeah. So whenever I was keep speaking engagement come my way, I step up, and I be treating my life like the same energy that we put in that I put in to get me in there, the same energy I put in to keep me out.
Mm.
So I got about 3 jobs now, ain't nothing on per, but
That's
it
how you
helps me.
do it.
It helps me where I'm trying to go to where I find. You
Yeah,
know.
that's how you do it. I you know I work 7 days a week. I work every day. Even though I work for myself, but I don't take days off. When I'm not with family, I'm working. I've created an environment where I can work, and I love the work that I do.
Yeah.
And man, I feel you, man. I was working garbage man warehouses. I was selling hot dogs on the corner of MLK in Atlanta. Right off Joseph. I'm in the hood, like any means necessary, but stockpiling my money, not going out there splurging,
Yeah.
networking, all the things that you're saying, man. You know what I'm saying? I wasn't doing it to your Mac. You going to you spoke at colleges already. Good gosh almighty. That
I
took me
had
about a
to,
week.
I had a good backup. I had somebody that had my back. But also, I want to add this too, if you don't mind.
Yeah,
For those guys to come on, just remember where you started is not where you finish. So all these little jobs I do, I don't go in it just for the dollars. I go with it to learn. Like I help somebody move now. So the whole time I'm watching how they do this, they're going
That's a
what you
business.
call them, the box trucks. Like, oh, all right. So I know how to do these things. So when you go into something, you go in it with the mindset, I'm gonna gain the knowledge so I can take this and apply it over here and do things like that. The other thing I use it for is to build my reference up. So if I do find somebody who give me a job that I want, I got about 5, 6 references that I can
Yep.
point to talk about my work ethic and what else.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
you definitely building that track record, man. That's
yeah.
Jules, man. As always, my goal here on the Stay Free Show is not just to highlight my story and to give solutions, but to bring other people up here so they can tell their stories of victory and they can provide just insight, solutions, etc. Man, we're building not just conversation here, but community. And as always, before I get into this last piece, man, thank you to each and every one of you that hopped up here. Um, Old Timer told me that the most valuable thing we'll ever have is time. I believe that wholeheartedly. Without it, you really don't have anything else. So thank you for spending your time with us. Just what's a word for the day, man? What's something that you want to, throw out there to the people, man, in the world right now before we get up off here?
Right now we live in a world where we focus so much on what we don't have that
Mhm.
once you've been through what we've been through, you learn to be grateful and find gratitude for the things you do have. So today I'm grateful because my life is a lot better than it was a year ago.
Amen. That yeah, I'm grateful too, man. A year ago, my house burned down in January.
Yeah,
So and now I'm sitting in my house again with a son, and I
that's
could have
beautiful.
gave up, but I remembered 17 years in prison. So I feel like, bro, man, I'm grateful too, man. As always, thank you. I'm excited to see how many more colleges, universities, etc. you speak at, and if you might beat me to an honorary doctorate. Hey, look, I feel like you might pop up with one of those. You out there in the
Yes.
colleges, man.
I'm
Uh,
about to start pursuing. I'm gonna try to. My goal is to get my master's in business too. So I'm
nice,
going through the little, admission process now.
nice.
Hopefully that won't take too much longer.
Do it. Yeah, and take digital media or marketing as somewhere in the mix. You take
Okay.
over the world, man. I believe that, man. Anybody can do 30 years. I just want to say, man, and exemplify strength and fight forward. Yo, hats off. And I ain't got one on, man. I took it off before we started just for you. No, I respect it, man. I respect it because everybody doesn't fight through and get through that. So thank you for being an example. Thank you for telling your story. Thank you for being transparent with your perspective. And until next time, man, because hopefully we'll get you back up here again.
Yeah,
I'm start doing
anytime.
panels. Yeah, I'm gonna get these panels jumping, man. I'm
Yeah.
excited. Yeah. All right, Just I appreciate it, man.
Yeah.
Everybody that's watching, y'all know what it is, man. We're not glorifying anything. We are educating, and as always, we just want